Joining me now is Sarah Armstrong-Montoya. She is the president and CEO at Cordoba Minerals. Great to see you, Sarah.
Hi, Mark. Great to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, for those who may not be that familiar, or even for those who are, if you could give us a little refresher on the flagship Alacran project and deposit in Colombia and the Perseverance project in Arizona.
Sure. So we have two projects, as you just mentioned, two flagship projects. The first one is the Alacran project, which is a copper, gold, and silver project in Colombia. It's in development stage. So that's about a 70% copper, 27% gold, and a 3% silver credit there. We have been advancing a lot this year on our feasibility study on the Alacran project and simultaneously with the permitting in Colombia, so the environmental impact assessment study. And we expect to be finishing the feasibility study in around November of this year, and the filing the environmental impact assessment study in December, so prior to the year end. That permit then allows us to go on to construction of the mine. Our Perseverance project that you mentioned is in Arizona. That's also copper, but it's an earlier stage project. And we're in the exploration phase there, and we're waiting to do some further drilling.
Now, as far as Colombia and the Alacran project, you've said that you've done more than 44,000 meters of infill drilling. And as you alluded to, an updated resource is on its way later on this year. So based on the work that you've done, based on the type of results you've already seen, what are your expectations?
We are pleased with the results, so I'll just go there. But I think it was no easy feat for us to complete the 44,000 meter drilling program. So it's something that we're very excited about. It meant that we had to be drilling right inside a community, inside houses, move part of the population. So from that side of things, it went really well from a social perspective, which is obviously extremely important, and our ongoing great community relations. And then on the drilling results, we have announced quite a bit, and you would see that there were some positive results there. Thus far, sort of confirming what we saw in the block model, in the pre-feasibility study, and in some cases bettering on that. But I can't really go into any more detail on what I expect to see in those results until that's public.
Right, of course. Now, getting back to the timeline, and you hinted at it in your previous answer in terms of the feasibility study, can you take us out to the path to production in 26 and sort of work backwards and walk us through what the plan is?
Absolutely. So in Colombia, it's required to have two permits to build a mine and get to production. So the first one is called the PTO, which is a plan of works, a little bit sort of like an advanced mine plan. And we filed that in November of 2021. And the second one is the one that I mentioned before, which is the environmental impact assessment study. Importantly, the EIA is more onerous than the feasibility study. So we're doing both of those studies simultaneously, and the information from the feasibility study will support the EIA. So we'll be filing that this year, and we have to relocate one community, which is sitting right on top of where the pit is going to be. We're in advanced negotiations with them to do that, which is going quite well. And once we actually get the permit, the EIA, we would implement the relocation of that community. Following our completion of our feasibility study, which, as I mentioned, we're expecting around to file that in November, we'll move on to detailed design, which we expect to take, sort of the first half of next year or an extra couple of months. And then once with the permitting, we'll move on to relocating the community and construction of that mine, which is intended to take around 2 years. So we're hoping to be into production by the fourth quarter of 2026.
All right, very good. Now, as far as the resource in Colombia, you've said that you've really only explored about 1% of your property. So again, it's kind of a crystal ball question, but what are the possibilities and the potential for further expansion?
Sure. For me, this is just the tip of the iceberg and our starting point. We've got an absolutely massive land package in the Cordoba region, and we've got all of the area surrounding the Alacran project. Part of the reason that we started off with the Alacran project is simply that the the phase that it's in and the legal requirements in Colombia, in order to keep the license in good standing and advancing the project, we had to do a pre-feas and sort of feasibility study and apply for these permits because of the phase of which the project is in. So obviously we're starting off with Alacran. That is surrounded by some satellite pits, but as I just mentioned, there is a much larger land package at play there. So we'll be starting off with our focus on getting Alacran into production, but the intention is absolutely to continue looking for that porphyry, which continues to elude us, but we believe is there, and we continue to intercept signs of a porphyry being nearby, and B, to continue simultaneously exploring our expansive land package that's there.
Sarah, as far as the ownership structure of Cordoba Minerals, it's notable in that Ivanhoe Electric owns about 63%, and then the Chinese company JCHX just under 20%. What advantages do those relationships present to you in terms of being able to execute on your plan, to know that the funding is there, you've got support, and again, looking out a few years to production?
I think we've been extraordinarily fortunate to be part of the Ivanhoe Group, and obviously have there as part of that Robert Friedland, which needs who needs no introduction here. And so having his team assisting us through this process and being able to have the benefit of their knowledge and experience from projects such as OT in Mongolia and Kamoa-Kakula is hugely beneficial to us, and looking at options to bring in the project in the fastest way possible, but obviously in accordance with the highest international standards for everything from construction of the mine to ESG is absolutely brilliant for us to have. As well as JCHX that you just mentioned, so our strategic Chinese partner, they've actually been a partner and a very good friend of the group since our OT days in Mongolia. They also they're our contractors at Kamoa-Kakula in the Congo, and they came in ahead of time and under budget on the construction of that mine, which I think at the moment is projected to be about the third largest copper mine in the world. So having the support from both Robert and the Ivanhoe Group, as well as JCHX, who are very experienced mining contractors who have built quite a few world-class mines, not only with us, but also in South America. So they do have extensive experience in South America and other parts of the world, is greatly beneficial. And hopefully we can capitalize on that and also come in ahead of time and under budget, getting us into construction and into production by 2026.
Lastly, Sarah, market conditions in the mining sector are not easy right now, as you know, but if you could sort of wrap it up with a bow here for us and summarize what you've been talking about in terms of the investment case that investors should know about with Cordoba Minerals.
Absolutely. I think we can all acknowledge, market conditions for mining are quite terrible at the moment. And there is a huge, supply issue between supply and demand for copper. So we're a medium-sized project, but in terms of mining and in terms of the timeline, we'll be in production relatively quick. We're talking in sort of the next 3.5 years, which timeline of mining projects is normally 15-20 years time. So it's something that we can get into production with decent grades and relatively quick. I think there's a discount on sort of Colombia, and I think market conditions for mining aren't great at the moment, but I think we have a lot of potential between our project here in Colombia. There's nothing so far that's shown up, any nasties in this project or anything that can stop us from getting into production. We have amazing support from our majority shareholders, and in addition to that, we have our copper project in Arizona. So I think we're definitely one to be watching.
All right, we will be watching. We'll be following the news flow. Thanks for your time today, Sarah, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you so much, Mark. Have a nice day.
You too. Sarah Armstrong-Montoya, President and CEO at Cordoba Minerals. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time.